Hi guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. First of all, I'll start by apologising because I am more than aware that I am probably the world's worst vlogger. By that I mean how frequently I get the opportunity to do these for you. Thanks for those who commented on Instagram and Twitter and on the YouTube channel comments itself, asking where I'd gone to and when I'd do my next video. Sorry that it's taken a while, but obviously, as everybody knows, business is my thing, and that obviously comes way up here, and hopefully that will have a benefit to you guys when I get a chance to do some advice videos and some tips for startups and low tech stuff. But anyway, back to the matter in hand. So that was first apology. Second apology, the quality of this video. I'm actually recording this on my iPhone, whereas I usually do my vlogs on a GoPro. So I'm guessing it probably looks a bit crap. And I'm obviously looking a bit dishevelled and not made much effort for you. But other than that, hopefully the content will be there. So we are now up to week 9, I believe, of The Apprentice. If that was wrong, I'll correct it in the comments. But anyway, I haven't done one of these vlogs about The Apprentice for a little while. I have been blogging along more often, so if you go on laurenriley.co.uk if you're really interested in my opinion on a specific episode, I might well have vlogged on there, and I've been blogging for some business publications as well. But tonight's episode, I guess most of you have seen it, but tonight's episode is about selling property. When I saw the advertisement last week for it, I was like, okay, this is going to be really interesting. Because the last few weeks for me have kind of rolled on. They've been a little bit dull, if I'm completely honest. Each week I've thought, oh, this could be the one. This looks really exciting. And it's kind of been, yeah. But this one was a bit more interesting, but not really, let's be fair about the task. Selling high-end property. I've not watched every episode of The Apprentice, but as far as I'm aware, it's something they've not done before. London is its own really unique environment for property sales. Obviously, prices are hugely expensive. One of the biggest shocks for the entire episode of The Apprentice for me was that you could buy any sort of property in Clapham for £325,000, I think it was, which is an astronomical amount of money, but for London prices is not very much at all. So that was the shock for me. But yeah, I mean, it was good because when you get to this stage, you get to see people's personalities, people's skills a bit more, because when there's so many candidates, it's really hard to pick out, oh, that was a sale because of this or that. So this stage is actually a bit more interesting to watch. I thought Richard and Varna did a great job. They seem to work together and understand that teamwork makes the dream work, as they say. They pulled together and they really schmoozed the property developers, and obviously that worked for them because they had the pick of the property that they wanted. You didn't see much about the back discussion as to why they wanted that, but I think Richard seems to be quite good at maths, so I think he'd worked out what the margins would be on that property in Canary Wharf, and that's the one that they pitched for and the one that they successfully got. Obviously this was about huge margins on property when you come to commissions, so it wasn't about volume sales turning them out. Obviously that would have helped them. So it was kind of a bit dry in terms of sales. Obviously they edited it, and you kind of could see Brett and Scott struggling in parts, and you know, maybe out of, let's say, 20 sales that they did that day, maybe that they only showed clips from 2. You just don't know. I mean, I'm always quite sceptical when it comes to a process that's been filtered through editing, but nevertheless, Richard and Varna's team, which included Scott and Brett, won. And they won with some decent profit. I've written down here that they sold £4 million worth of property, which in 1.5 days seems more than acceptable by anybody's standards. And the other team obviously sold a lot less. I think Joseph, even though he was the losing project manager, was always going to be safe. I think he's proved himself throughout this process in terms of sales, that is. Lord Sugar loves a salesman. Joseph is obviously one of those guys. When he found himself in the bottom 3, though, I thought actually he was quite impressive in terms of the way that he really fought for what he wanted, how hard he was already working and how hard he was going to work for Lord Sugar. And Lord Sugar likes, as far as I can tell, nothing more than 2 things. 1, a salesman, and 2, somebody that's going to, you know, sacrifice above all else on his behalf. So Joseph was ticking all those boxes, so I always thought he was safe. and it got to the end and it was Selena that was fired. Now, Selena seems to have some sort of a roller coaster ride in the press, and seems to be claiming, or is claiming, that the Apprentices have given her a rough ride in terms of editing. She didn't film You're Fired, for example, and she claims that was her decision because she didn't want to. We'll never know quite the ins and outs of that. But what I do know, I don't know how Selena was in actuality and how she's been portrayed, but you do know that the process is significantly edited. To what extent that is in people's favours or otherwise, you just don't know. And I could tell you from my experience of it, and largely it was there or thereabouts. Obviously, I only got so far in the process as a candidate myself, so I knew that they were going to back edit it and chop a lot of my contributions out, which is ultimately what they did. But that never came as a surprise to me, because this is, at the end of the day, this is a TV show. You didn't win. Their objective is to make Lord Sugar and his decision look, obviously, exemplar, which is understandable. So I don't know whether I agree with Selena on that point, but I also don't disagree whether there's a significant chance that what she's saying may be right. Who knows? But we put some wheels in motion to maybe get you some answers for that, and that's all I'll say on that one. But so Selena has been fired, but the really interesting one about tonight is Scott. So Scott Saunders, up until tonight, I would say would have been right up there as one of the strongest candidates. You know, he's hasn't offended anybody, he's not got any rows, he's obviously a good salesman, he's been quite consistent throughout, he's featured quite heavily in the programme. And then tonight, his team won, but his performance was quite heavily criticised. And he it was really bizarre to watch, actually, although I think we all knew it was coming because it'd been leaked in the press. But his team won, he was allowed to leave the boardroom and go home and have his celebratory whatever it was that they won, and instead he remained in his seat and actually effectively fired himself. First of all, kudos to him, because I actually think that takes a lot of guts. It's obviously a fantastic opportunity, and he's decided that it wasn't for him. Second of all, my observation would be that we don't really know what went on there. You know, Scott seems like a clever guy. He's not going to throw an opportunity away unless he felt quite passionately that something wasn't right. I imagine that something is the way that he was being spoken to by Lord Sugar and his aides, and that he felt that you know, he could no longer remain in the process, or his time was up for something to do with that. I'd be really interested to speak to Scott about that and to read the press, or to, most likely you guys will tell me what the answer is on Twitter before I get to read it, you know, see what the reason was. So that's not so much task focus, more about the ins and outs, but that's my review for this week's Apprentice. But the most exciting part of that is tomorrow I am going to meet, well, I say tomorrow because I'm filming it tonight, Wednesday evening, so on Thursday I'm going to meet the majority of this year's Apprentice candidates, which should be interesting. So love them or hate them, I'll be trying to get interviews from all of them, some of them. Depends what your questions are, so please do come back to me on Twitter ASAP. If you have any thoughts about individual candidates, I can filter that through to them. If you have any questions for them, I can ask them directly. And I think that will be really interesting, actually, to find out. I've spoken to a few of them already, but to actually find out with the camera rolling on the vlog what it is that they're thinking of this season. So get your questions coming in, and I will get that out to you as soon as possible. But for now, that's all I'm saying. Goodbye, guys. Have a fabulous evening.